All join palms and repeat after me. I take refuge in the Buddha.
I take refuge in the Buddha.
I take refuge in the Dharma.
I take refuge in the Dharma.
I take refuge in the Sangha.
I take refuge in the Sangha.
Keeping the palms joined. Put palms down. All right, good morning, everybody. Good to see you all here. I remember years ago, there was actually, before I continue, are there two people potentially on a bench or chair that are comfortable on a cushion? So if you are one of those two people, if you could come on up into these two, and if you're just coming in now, there's a seat right there on the, there you go, thanks. Appreciate y'all moving, thank you. All right. Hey, Travis. So whoever just came in, they have a spot saved for them in the back corner. Okay. They had to pay extra for it, but it's theirs. Oh, and there's a chair right there. Thanks. Appreciate it. What would we do without Travis? So years ago, there was a, pretty major event happening, and everyone was so concerned and wondered how we get past it. I'm not talking about here, I mean globally. And then years later, there was another major event happening, and everybody wondered how would we get past it. And then years after that, another major event happened, and everybody wondered how would we get past that. Here we are again. Lots of major events happening. Everybody's wondering, oh no, how are we going to get past it? And the reality is these things are never going to go away. These major catastrophes, these major issues, these challenges globally, whether it's all the words that I usually won't talk about in here, but regardless of what the topic is, there's huge things happening in the world every day, always have been and always will be. That's never going to change. But for some reason, humans often walk around thinking, well, if we can just get past this one thing, then everything's going to be okay. And then you get past that and everybody thinks, well, if we can just get past this next thing, everything's going to be okay. And that continues. And there's this never-ending cycle of trying to fix and control and change and manipulate everything that's going on outside of us, as if that is the reason for all of your struggles right now. The only constant that is there within all of that is you. And what this teaches us, especially for those who are like, really just think that they don't do anything wrong. I'm sure none of you are like that. But in case there's maybe one of you in this room who often thinks like, your plate is perfectly clean, this is hard for you. Because it is so much easier, maybe more fun, to just point fingers and blame and argue all day. That's easy. Really simple. Well, if they would do this, if they would listen to this, if they would change their views, if they would do what I want them to do, they would see the world the way I saw it, all those things. And I know this intimately so well because that was the majority of my life. I'm not really talking about anybody else right now. I'm talking about myself and thinking that out of 40 of you here, one of you might relate to this. So to the other 39, I apologize for wasting your time. But there's a chance that we think our everything is quite all right, but everybody else has to change their views. And if you're someone who's sitting there right now, like really struggling with what I'm talking about right now, and it really makes you uneasy, then you need to hear this the most. Thich Nhat Hanh, the great Vietnamese Buddhist master, nominated in the 60s by Martin Luther King for a Nobel Peace Prize for his work with social justice issues. He said nirvana, freedom from suffering, is freedom from views. And I share this a lot because it's, to me, one of the most brilliant teachings I've ever heard. Freedom from suffering is freedom from views. The challenge with this teaching is the moment you hear it, for the most part, if your brain works and you're human, you are formulating a view and opinion about what I just immediately said. And therein lies the problem, that our entire life we're going to have views and opinions. But the challenge, and to me, when I heard this, the practice became not thinking that I, Jeff, am going to just abandon all of my views, but is it slightly remotely possible to, one, begin to think that maybe some of my views aren't correct, that quite possibly other people than myself may have views that are decent? And can I go through my days and not spend my entire life fighting all of them just because their views don't align with every single thing that I think? That was a life-changing practice for me when I heard that. And I heard that like not even that long ago, probably 6-7 years. Right? So I'd been at this stuff for about 10 years, and then I heard that, and I was like, oh, I get it. I've been at this Buddhist thing for about 10 years at that point in time, and you know what that meant? That I thought my views were right because I had Buddhist views. That's the most ignorant thing in the world. Those were just my attached views like everything else. You can't play the Buddhist card. I call it Buddhist arrogance, where it's like, well, I'm Buddhist, so, my views are above all of yours, right? Anyone ever feel that way, that like because you go to a meditation or Buddhist thing that you kind of think you're above people? Sure. Thank you, you three, for being honest. I'm sure other hands wanted to raise, but you were just stuck by the fans circling, So it's really, I call it Buddhist arrogance. It's just like, check me out, I'm Buddhist, so that means I'm kinder and more compassionate than you are. Check me out, I go to the Buddhist temple, so that means I'm wiser than you, right? Again, I was stuck in that for a while. And then all of a sudden that teaching just kind of woke up that part of me that said, that's just as big of an attachment as anything else. So you're constantly starting over, day after day after day. And when I say starting over, I mean waking up to your own ego, your own cause of your own suffering, your own pride, your own attachment to your views, and learning to embrace the fact that every challenge that exists now, past, and in the future is going to have you in it. So it helps to look at your role in all of this. And as I wrap this up, this thought before we sit in meditation, for those who might be brand new to Buddhism, just to clarify, it doesn't mean that you become, like the doormat and just get stepped on. Thich Nhat Hanh was a fighter. He fought for social justice, but he did it in a way with kindness and compassion and wisdom, not with anger and hatred and rage. So Buddhist practice doesn't mean you just allow the world to be a mess. You engage with it and in it, but in a way that hopefully brings a little more kindness. So with that, we'll start with a meditation practice, if that's okay with everyone's views. A couple things I'll tell you before we begin. Nothing's going to happen to you. You're not going to float away. You won't have any mystical, magical experiences. The mind that races all day long is not going to shut off. Don't judge your practice, meaning don't ask yourself, is it working or not working? Are you doing it right or doing it wrong? You're just going to sit and you're going to breathe. You'll hear sounds inside the room, sounds outside. This is life. Life is filled with chaos. And the practice of meditation is learning to get quiet and still within all the chaos. Posture, if you're on a cushion, often it helps slide into the front third, pushing the stomach forward, allows the back to straighten. Shoulders are relaxed, hands are on the knees or in the lap, whatever's comfortable. Benches or chairs, same thing, just trying to straighten the back, relax the shoulders. If you need to move during meditation, simply move. It doesn't make you a bad meditator, it just means you need to move. I will guide us as we begin. We'll settle into a little bit of silence. Be done by about 4 o'clock. And starting with the eyes closed if comfortable, or slightly open. Mouth is open or closed. We'll start with taking 3 deep breaths, slowly. And eventually, just settle into a natural rhythm of the breath. Noticing the mind as it wanders, jumping from thought to thought. Start with gently guiding the attention, focus to the stomach or chest. Breathing in, feel them rise. Breathing out, they fall. simply continuing this practice. Observing sensation of breath. And as the mind wanders, lost in thought, recognize it. Release that thought. Return attention, focus to the breath. Breathing in. Follow breath in. Breathing out. Follow breath out. letting go of expectations, letting go of judgment from the practice, just sitting, breathing. Keeping the mind alert, aware of each sound, each thought, each physical sensation, yet concerned with nothing but sitting, breathing. And with the body still, rested, and the speech quiet, aware of all sounds, and the mind learning to settle. Know what it's like to just sit and breathe. Knowing with each breath, there's nothing else to do. Nowhere else to go. No one else to be. Everything beautiful, exactly as it is. Sitting, breathing. And once again, taking 3 deep breaths slowly. As you slowly open the eyes, slowly begin to move. Most important with the practice of meditation is to recognize how you feel now, immediately after. Compare this to how you typically feel throughout your day. Recognize the difference, if there is one. Ask yourselves how you prefer to feel every day for the rest of your life. And know that however you feel now, if it's quiet, calm, and still, or a busy mind, racing mind, whatever you're sitting with at this moment, has nothing to do with anything I said. It's nothing to do with how you sit and hold the hands or cross the legs. It's nothing to do with the sounds around us or anything else for that matter. It's everything to do with your own mind and your own mind's reaction to an external condition. This is what the Buddha called pratitya samuppada. Means dependent origination. This is the basis of the Buddha's awakening. The word Buddha simply means awakened. He was a human being, no different than any one of us. I began to understand why he suffered, why he got angry, sad, depressed, stressed, anxious. He began to understand the causal relationship of all phenomena. But that means very simply for all of us, regardless of where you come from or what you believe in or where you think you're going, your whole life is filled with things that happen and you react. More stuff happens, more reactions. That's it. That's what we get. This practice is learning what it's like to respond to something quietly, peacefully, still. Because for most of us, the way you responded to the last 20 minutes is quite different from how you respond to everything else that's happening throughout your days. So all we're working on is closing the gap to where the way you feel now is closer to how you feel always. Just as driven, motivated, productive, successful, whatever that means to you in your respective lives. But with a mind that's steady, clear, focused, distracted by nothing, disturbed by no one. It's not an easy practice. It's not necessarily fun. Meditation is not an escape, as often people think it is. If your life is a crazy, hectic, stressed out mess, meditation doesn't fix that. It makes you become aware of why your life is a mess, and then you can actually make changes in your life so things don't get so bad. The beauty of this practice is the only one who created a mess in your own life is you. That's phenomenal. Because that means you have the ability to undo the mess that you created. Meditation is free. Buddhist practice free. Sitting, breathing, learning to be kind to yourself and everybody else you encounter. And that's it. Once we stop trying to change, fix, control, manipulate everything around us, and we work on our mind and our reaction to the world around us, life gets simpler. And in reality, not much changed. But as I started with this morning talking about, it really does come back to you. Your thoughts, your words, your actions every day of your life. How much accountability, responsibility you take for your own sense of peace of mind and health and well-being, and how much you put all of that responsibility on the events in the world. Because day after day, month after month, year after year, there's always something going on. And I've talked about this for years, that we just shift from one latest problem to the next. We've been in a pandemic for the last 18 months around the world. At some point in time, hopefully, that may be somewhat behind us. It could be a very long time until that happens. But at some point in time, hopefully that will be behind us. But then there'll be something else. Some other major problem or inconvenience or challenge or difficulty. Or person. These things always change. And so for me, the beautiful part of Buddhist practice is it requires us to hold up a mirror and look back at ourselves and say, what's my role in all of this? Because I don't know about you, but I sure as heck got tired of blaming everybody else for all the problems in the world. But again, that's a point you have to reach on your own. Because I know a lot of you in here and you're not really ready yet to stop blaming other people. So when you reach that point, this cultivation and spiritual path begins to open up. And the longer you've been blaming others for all the misery in the world, the harder it's going to be. So for your kids, you'll get through okay. So with that, I'll pause. I do want to share one funny thought that I had during meditation. It was hysterical to me. I almost paused in the middle of meditation to like share it, but I'll save it for when it actually occurs. But I just want to share it, so if it ever happens in the future, you're all not caught off guard. Although now I'm thinking about it, that would be even better. But so one of the things, when we were downtown for 10 years at that location, you know, it was a Second and Market. So you're a couple blocks outside the gas lamp, and you know, you're sitting in meditation, you're up in this cool little loft, and all of a sudden you hear the pedicabs going by, and you got like, you know, Tupac playing, or, you know, you got like Aerosmith rocking out, or whatever it is. And so you're sitting in meditation and you hear these pedicabs with the music, or, you know, you hear the drunk people stumbling by the street, or whatever it might be, right? And so as we moved here 4+ years ago, this place has its own set of sounds, right? And they're all different. There's a great, not too many YouTube talks of Shunryu Suzuki, who built San Francisco Zen Center, who really kind of made it what it is today. On noise versus sound is a great old image of that on YouTube. Not too many live or actual, you know, recordings of him teaching, but noise versus sound. But anyway, so this place has its own set of sounds, and one of them is like, you know, you're like 12 feet from the neighbors right there, you know, and so you hear the conversations or whatever's going on sometimes, and sometimes they're louder than others. But all of a sudden I just kind of heard talking, and I don't know why, but for some reason the thought went in my head. I was like, I wonder if it's someone's birthday. And I thought to myself, what if they start singing happy birthday? This is my thought process, right? I mean, I stop and try to recognize each thought as it arises. I hear a sound. Maybe it's someone's birthday. What if they start singing? Then I'm going to start singing. Then we're all going to start singing. So in the middle of meditation, I had this whole little thought about all of us singing happy birthday to whoever it is. Now, I don't think it's anybody's birthday. Maybe it is. I didn't hear anything, but I'm just planting the seed that in the future, if we are ever fortunate enough to be here while they're singing happy birthday, we are absolutely joining in during the meditation. So anyways, with that, we'll open up to questions, meditation, Buddhist practice, anything you're sitting with, and I'll use the rest of the time to respond to questions. Is anybody's birthday in here today? Yeah, go ahead in the back. You can put that on. I don't need it down to hear you. Thank you. That's the fascinating thing to me. Time out. Hang on. I'm not picking on you. The masks we wear. Thank you all for wearing them. Thank you. I mean, it's a policy and you can't be here without one, right? So we appreciate it. We have you spaced out. But when you're outside of here, and this is not about you, I promise. That just triggered something I wanted to share anyways. When you're outside, we talk about in here that we practice, we look at what the Buddha taught, not to be good in here, but to practice it out there. Because in here, everybody's nice and friendly and gentle and like, oh, you're so wonderful, look at you, you're at the Buddhist place. And out there, you're the same people that piss each other off. So we practice here to be okay out there. I see the masks and other things we've always done in here, the same thing. So thank you for wearing the masks. The masks are for other people. You as well, but for other people. So when you wear them and you walk up to somebody and you start to talk to them, please don't pull it down. Go ahead.
It's up now.
What's that?
My mask is up now.
Thank you.
I'm just curious. I'm all new to this.
Yeah.
And so I'm looking at the symbolism behind you and the Buddhism way of not giving much knowledge to greed or money and so on. And
Yeah.
Symbols of gold and
Yeah.
plush and
Yeah.
who has eaten a lot.
Who has what?
Eaten a lot.
Yes.
So
I love new people.
I'm
Yeah.
curious. It seems contrary to the Buddhist.
I understand. So, oh man, there's so many directions I can go with this. We only have like 18 minutes. What's your name? Scott. I love the question. I will eventually respond to it, but I'm going to mess with you a little bit, right? That's a nice shirt you have, even from here. I mean, it has a collar. It's nice, right? How many of those do you have?
How many of those?
How many shirts?
I don't know.
Take a guess.
12?
12. Okay. I promise to not judge you because you have 12. You only have 12 shirts? Now I don't believe you. Even Ahmad here has more than 12 shirts, right? I've known him a long time. You only have 12 shirts total in your entire wardrobe?
No, I was just thinking of ones I actually wear.
Okay. Oh, even easier. So for those who didn't hear it, you're only thinking the ones. So you have 12 shirts that you wear. How many do you have that you don't wear?
I just retired, so I have all my work clothes.
I'm not letting this go, so you might as well just answer the question. 30? 15, okay. So you got 12 that you wear, you're just retired, so you got 15 that you don't wear. So you have a total of 27 shirts. You're just one person, right?
Yes.
Okay. You got shorts on. How many shorts do you have? Pairs of shorts?
6.
6. That's pretty good. You wore shoes here today, or did you come barefoot?
Sandals.
Sandals. How many pairs of shoes or sandals do you have? At least 10?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know too many people who don't have at least 10, so I was going conservative there, right? That's a lot of stuff, right? Do you eat out all the time for meals?
Often.
Often. That's a lot of money spent on meals, right? We have a lot of stuff, okay? Now, keep that in mind as I share now what I'm going to share. I'll try to find it because there's a great talk I gave at length about the statues, but I'm going to try to sum it up right now. And if you're curious, I could, you could leave it with Travis or me, and I'll send you an email of the talk. But let me first address because you referenced what's called Hotai, which is the Buddha with the big belly, right? Okay. So that was not the Buddha. He was a monk in China. He lived about 1,000 years ago. He was very happy, came from a very wealthy, prosperous family. He had a large belly. He always carried a bag of stuff with lots of gifts in it, and he gave them out. Sound familiar? Right? Santa Claus, maybe. I don't know, but so somehow in Western culture, he became known as, his name Hotai means bag carrier. So he always carried a bag of stuff, gave it out. And in Western culture, he became known as the happy Buddha. And somehow people began to believe if you rub the belly, it's good luck. If you rub the head, it's bad luck. You go to casinos, you see happy Buddhas there all the time, right? Because a lot of people go there think they're good luck. So you're at a casino, you're throwing money at this happy Buddha, you're rubbing the belly, and then you're putting money in a slot machine and you're hoping you're going to win. And then if you do, you think it's because you threw money at the happy Buddha and rubbed his belly, right? This has nothing to do with Buddhism, right? This is cultural stuff. He was a monk in China. The Buddha, do you know that he was human? Do you know anything about the life of the Buddha? No, great. No, a lot of people don't. He was a simple dude. He lived in India 2,500 years ago. I'll sum this up. And he was a prince. All the wealth, all the riches, everything you can imagine for 29 years. 29 years, he said, I can't live like this anymore. He snuck out in the middle of the night. He saw old age, sickness, death, and an ascetic, a very simple, wise monk or nun. And he said, I can't live this wealthy life. I renounce all of that. He cut off his princely, beautiful hair. And he roamed the base of the Himalayan mountains for 6 years. And at 35, he sat down and he said, I'm not moving from under this tree, a Bodhi tree in India, in Bodh Gaya. He said, I'm not moving until I figure out why we suffer. He spent 21 days exploring his own suffering, his own craving, his own desire, his own attachment, his own wants for lots of shirts and lots of shoes and lots of socks and lots of stuff, right? And then 5 guys came up to him and said, that's Siddhartha. Looks like he's figured something out. Let's sit with him. He taught them why he suffered. They called him the Buddha. The word Buddha means awakened. And then he roamed around for 45 years and he taught. He taught why we suffer. We suffer because of greed, anger, and ignorance. Craving, desire, we always want more. Whatever we have is not enough. And we think there's something else out there. At 80, he died. Buddhism left India, went south, Thailand, Laos, Vietnam, Cambodia, north. 500-600 years later, China, Japan, Korea. 1,000 years after he died, it goes into Tibet. 150 years ago, it makes its way into the US, Europe, Canada. So for 2,500 years, you've had the spread of these teachings that mesh with cultures, right? So coming back to the nature of your question, which I wanted to give you some background first. In Asia, Buddhist statues are predominantly all the color gold. Now, in the sutras, the Buddhist teachings, specifically the Mahayana sutras, they talk about the radiant golden rays of the Buddha, like the sun, right? The beautiful, pure sun shining out, rays of warmth. So in Asian culture, Buddhist statues are predominantly golden. In Western culture, what do we see golden color as? Exactly the nature of it. Sorry. Wealth, right. Exactly the nature of your question. In Asian culture, and I've spent enough time there, monastery life in that culture and around Asian temples, to understand that when those folks walk into a Buddhist temple and they see golden statues, their first thought is not, wow, these folks are wealthy, right? Completely different view. Now that tradition of those statues, because that's where Buddhism comes from, continued on, right? So you will predominantly see Buddhist statues, I shouldn't say predominantly in the West, very often in gold. The reason you don't see them as much is because we associate that color with wealth or gaudy or flashy or whatever it might be, whatever words you want to use, right? I mean, I'm a Jewish kid, privileged, growing up in Del Cerro, right? You start putting gold, shiny stuff up there, that's a symbol of something. And that's what our uneducated mind around this stuff will do, right? Which is why I'm taking so much time to explain this. Are you with me so far?
Yeah.
Okay, so now let's come back to what the symbolism actually is on the statues. We have, and this is impossible to sum up, it's all on the website, but we have up here so many different statues that represent so many different things. When we started the Dharma Bum Temple 15 years ago, when we're done, you can come up and take a look at it. There's the emaciated Buddha. And the emaciated Buddha is the Buddha prior to awakening, when he was near death. He was starving himself. He left the wealthy life and he said, I'm going to live on 1 grain of rice a day. And I'm going to stand on one leg for weeks at a time and hang from a tree for weeks at a time. Because in India at that time, they thought that if they overcame physical form, attachment, that they would awaken. So he starved himself. Said he was so skinny you could take your fingers front to back and touch. He almost died. When we opened the Dharma Bum Temple, we picked that statue 15 years ago almost, because it represented us physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually near death. It embodied who we were as Dharma Bums, not these enlightened Buddhists, not monks or nuns, but struggling practitioners trying to figure it out with the Buddhist statue that looks like he's about to die. That's who we are. That's the heart of this place, right? And we have a number of other little things up here. Like I said, I can describe all of them to you at length if you'd like. But so about 4 years ago, we acquired this temple, and we had the same Buddha here. And we were approached a few years ago by a couple that have been around the community for a long time, and they said, we'd like to help you complete your shrine, right? Now for myself, for Maggie's a Taiwanese Buddhist. Myself, Taiwanese Buddhism is the heart of my personal practice. We have in us what we see as proper shrines. This was our conditioning, what she was raised in or what I was brought up in with Buddhism, right? And so there are what we consider proper shrines. So this couple approached us and said, we'd like to donate the funds to make statues. And so we thought, well, what's the first thing we need? This statue behind me in the middle is Kuan Yin. The Dalai Lama, they say, is the literal rebirth of Kuan Yin. Kuan Yin hears all the suffering in the world and pours out compassion to heal. The mantra, Om Mani Padme Hum, is the prayer of compassion from Kuan Yin. And we thought, what does this temple, what does this city, what does this country, what does this world need more than anything? Compassion. So we wanted a Kuan Yin, which you almost will never see as your main big statue, is a Kuan Yin. You always see a Buddha, almost. But we went with the compassion, the female embodiment of Buddhist teachings, of compassion. And then we went on the sides with Manjushri, which represents wisdom, and Samantabhadra, which represents great diligence, right? Now, these were handcrafted by folks in Taiwan that have been making statues for temples for many generations. And what color are probably 95% of the statues that they make? Gold. You know who didn't want golden statues in the Dharma Bum temple? This guy. Why? Because I was a 40-something-year-old Jewish kid who grew up thinking gold is a symbol of wealth and flashiness. You know whose attachment and view and ego that was? Mine. Thinking, oh my God, I'm going to have to respond to questions like this. I'm going to have to look at brand new people and explain why we have these flashy gold statues as if they symbolize wealth, right? I'm so glad we have them. To me, they're proper. They're what I'm most comfortable with as statues. But they're opportunities for all of us to recognize how stuck we are. And this is for everybody, not just you. How stuck we are in our very narrow-minded views of what we think things represent. We see someone on TV and we immediately label them as something. We see people on the roads and we label them as something. Okay? Maybe our views aren't correct. So that's a brief response. I love the question. I love opportunities to respond to this. The very first night they went in, she's been around the temple for years, and like we finished the meditation and I opened up like I always did, and I opened up to questions. And she immediately, Laverne, was like, what's with the gold statues? Like, that was her question. And I was like, okay, here we go. You know, and now, probably nearly 3 years later, I love it. I mean, I loved it pretty quickly, but so hopefully that helps paint the picture a little bit for you. Does that help? You're welcome. Yes.
Can you talk about the animals?
Yes. So the animals, this is Manjushri. He sits on a lion. You ever been in a cage with a wild, crazy lion? You ever want to be in a cage with a wild, crazy lion? Would destroy you and me and everybody else in this room, most likely, unless you're like Manjushri, obviously, or a lion tamer. What destroys you the most in your life? Yourself. All right? So what this represents, Manjushri, the Bodhisattva of wisdom, represents taming a wild lion, also known as your mind. your mind, your emotions, that's what causes your suffering. And your reaction to the world around you, like all of us. So here he sits on a very cute, playful lion. So the practice of cultivating ultimate wisdom, the Buddha taught there's two wings to this practice, wisdom and compassion. Compassion is the Kuan Yin right behind me. Wisdom is Manjushri, taming that mind, just like taming a wild lion. That's really difficult to do. Because how long has your mind been causing all of your suffering? A long time, right? But with practice, our mind can be just like the playful little stuffed animal looking lion, right? Looks cute. Does your mind look cute when you look at it? I'm not, projecting on you. It was more of a question, right? My mind is not cute or fun or pretty or pleasant to look at. It is like 12 lions in a cage. And I don't say that for like, oh, Jeff, you're so full of it. Like, no, I'm really being honest. My mind is an absolute nightmare of a mess. That's why I work so hard at this practice. That's why I share it so passionately, because I hate seeing people suffer the way I have suffered. I know that feeling. It sucks. What's required is this statue right here, Samantabhadra. His name represents diligence and great practice, great effort. All steps on the Eightfold Path as the Buddha taught. The Four Noble Truths, the suffering 1, the cause of suffering 2, the ending of suffering 3, and the fourth Noble Truth is the path. Correct views, thoughts, speech, action, livelihood, effort, mindfulness, and concentration. Without right effort, without that diligence, we're going to struggle, right? Your hair ever caught on fire? Someone said yes? Oh, nice. Thank you. I don't usually get a yes to that question. It's like, Kara, is that you? It's hard to see. Okay, you're good. I see it. So when your hair caught on fire, did you just sit there and you were like, hey, my hair's on fire? No. What did you do?
Run around screaming.
Ran around screaming, looking for what?
Just in a panic till someone says stop, drop, and roll.
Stop, drop, and roll, or maybe, food for thought, maybe water would have helped. I don't know. But right when our hair is on fire, we try to put it out. And this was the great teaching of Zen Master Dogen, who lived from 1200 to 1253, the founder of the Soto Zen school. He said, practice as if your hair is on fire. Meaning when your hair was on fire, you weren't like, oh, this is fun. You were like, no, running around like a crazy person trying to put the fire out. Well, use that metaphor for the suffering that we experience. It's not fun. It sucks. But do we work as hard at putting out our suffering as we do as if our hair was on fire? That's what this represents. And he sits on the elephant for the hard work that the elephant did to cultivate land, as well as the 6 tusks. The 6 tusks represent the paramitas. And this is the Bodhisattva practice. Bodhisattva means enlightened being. And the Bodhisattva path and practice, which you've all heard me talk about a lot, is the 6 practices of generosity, morality, patience, diligence, concentration, and wisdom. So those 6 tusks are the 6 practices of the Bodhisattva to help us overcome the suffering that we experience, and specifically the effort and diligence of Samantabhadra. So deep, deep meaning. Symbolism, back to your question earlier. I already forgot your name, I'm sorry. Scott, thank you. Back to Scott's question earlier. Symbolism and iconography in Buddhism and in all the world's religions are very profound and very deep. And at first glance, they're just kind of things we see. One of my favorite things, and I'll close on this thought because the church bells were ringing, but these things are called tankas up here. And the same couple that offered to have the statues built offered to put the tankas in. And so we picked very specific tankas. But these are Tibetan practices, Nepalese. They come from a Tibetan Nepalese culture, Bhutanese. And huge in Buddhist practice is meditative experiences. These are hand done. They take months and months and months to make. The lamas build them as part of their practice. To us, we see them as art. To them, it's a spiritual path and practice of making them. And there are what's called wrathful deity tankas. So these will look pleasant. But the wrathful looking ones, just Google wrathful deity Tanka. They're fierce. They have like these huge teeth coming out. They look really mean, and they're often on fire. Maybe one is of you, Kara. And they're really just wrathful looking. And the idea is that that's us. But we spend all our time trying to make ourselves look pretty and wear the right clothes and do our hair the right way and put on our makeup and make sure our shoes match our belt and make sure that that matches our shirt, you know, and only wear it in like September because it's Labor Day, and after that you can't wear certain colors. Like these are the most ridiculous things that we as humans are subjected to. Other people telling us what color clothes we should wear based on the weather. Nonsense. People, please break free from these things that you have been told bring you happiness. Because I promise you, if you're sitting here right now, it probably hasn't worked yet. Unless somebody dragged you here. Always a possibility. But I don't even know where I started at, but I'm going to stop there. So, oh yeah, wrathful deities. The practice is that that's what we look like on the inside. And with the cultivation of wisdom and compassion and diligence and effort and these types of things, we can actually become beautiful on the inside, which is what matters, right? Billions of marketing dollars are not spent telling you to be a kind, beautiful, gentle person on the inside. Because if you were, you wouldn't need all the crap they're trying to give you. So keep that in mind. So we'll close on that. We'll join palms. May the benefit of this practice be shared with all beings in all directions. May all be at peace. May all be free from suffering. May any merit gained from this practice be transferred to the more than 4 million lives that have been lost during this pandemic, and to their family and friends who continue to suffer at this day. May they all be at peace. May we all be at peace and free from suffering. So a couple quick announcements before you head out. To be nice to everybody all day. Thanks for being here. My name is Jeff. I'm a Dharma bum. We opened up this temple nearly 15 years ago to introduce Buddhist practice to those who show up. Those of us who lead, we're not monks, we're not nuns, we're not gurus, we're not masters, we're not teachers, we're not looking for students, we're just practitioners. We do our best to take our understanding of Buddhist teachings and put it into terms that hopefully make sense to those who show up. Every night we have different practices going on. We closed for 16 months due to the pandemic. We opened up July 10th, so just maybe a couple months ago. And obviously we have a lot of restrictions and policies in place. The masks being one of them. The temple is closed all day being another one. Having to RSVP for a couple classes so we can kind of have a capacity limit in here to make everybody comfortable. Hopefully you're comfortable now. If there were 80 people sitting around you right now, you would not be so comfortable. So we appreciate you all doing the RSVP system just for Saturday morning and Tuesday night. Also, our recovery Sangha meets here Sunday morning. We've had that for 10, 11 years. Anyone battling addiction, drug, alcohol, whatever it might be, that's Sunday morning and Tuesday night. The Tuesday night is downstairs. That also requires an RSVP for the recovery class. Monday through Friday morning, we sit 8 and 8:30. So if you want to do just a silent 25-minute sit, you're welcome to show up. And then the doors close, temple's closed all day until it opens up for class in the evening. I always forget to announce it, not to put you on the spot, but Amy, raise your hand, Amy. Amy and Kayla, we started over the pandemic, when we were closed, we wanted to start a couple programs. So we started meeting online and talking about ideas. And one of them was a knit and sit. So we've been making beanies for people who live on the streets downtown San Diego. That meets every Sunday. And another one is a Tonglen practice. It's a Tibetan Buddhist practice of sending and receiving. So Amy and Kayla, for many months now, that one is still on Zoom. I've been meeting Sunday nights. And on the website, you can actually put in any sort. It's like sending prayer. It takes you about 30 seconds. If you have a loved one, anyone you know is sick, or yourself, and you want them to send compassion and healing for you, that's there. But they have been in the most beautiful way. And I thank you and Kayla for really keeping that going. But having a Tonglen practice every Sunday night, and they do a meditation, they send the prayers and compassion out and a little discussion around Tonglen and Buddhist practice. So even though it's not happening here, I still think it's one of the most beautiful things we're doing. I keep forgetting to thank you and announce that here. So thank you. And
No, I love doing it. Thank you.
so that's a Sunday night at 7. Buddha for You downstairs, also closed pretty much all week. We open 12 to 3 Saturday and Sunday, so it's open downstairs now if you want. And then also an hour before Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And I'm not kidding on the statues, man. They sent us little 3D imaged models for us to choose before we had these made. And they donated 100 sets of the little ones. But when they first sent the 3D samples for us to pick, like the finish we wanted, and the gold ones showed up, I was like, no. Like, we are not putting those in the temple. I was so against it. And I'm so happy to have reached a place where the exact opposite of what I wanted as co-founder of this place ended up being what I actually sit in front of every time. So there's hope for you all. Just keep going. So thanks all for being here. I think that's it for the announcements. And as you journey back out there and start to make your way out, please keep the masks on until you're off the property. So thank you all for being here, and good luck.
So wonderful.
6 feet away, back up. Thank you.
Just leave.
You should go to 10 feet because I know you.
Come all the way to see you. That's how you treat me.